All right. Some of this is marked up. I did a past video and I skipped some and I didn't like how that came out. And then I found out I could upload it on YouTube so you could see the full thing. So I didn't have to worry about skipping other ones. This is just a continuation of the quiz on the abdomen, thorax, blood, and shock. I'm just going to go over another quiz that you have over the thorax injuries because the past video, the other two parts, they went over thorax injuries but not as much in depth as this Quizlet is. So we're going to go over some of this part right here. So right here, automatically, we're going to start with appendicitis. If you remember in the beginning of the year, we went over a few key words that you're going to have to remember in sports med. One of them, or the root words, one of them was itis. And off the bat, you're going to know that itis is inflammation. Usually, they're going to have like where it's located. So the appendi right here, it's usually going to have to do with the appendix. So off the bat, it's going to tell you appendix. It's going to tell you an appendix in my, this is how I remember it, appendix. And then inflammation. So if off the bat, I'm starting to read the definition and I already right here reach inflammation. So then I'm going to already think, okay, well, it has inflammation in the definition. So I'm going to keep reading. Inflammation of the vermiform appendix that can be chronic or inflammation. Off the bat, they're giving you one inflammation, two inflammation right here. Once again, itis, inflammation. And then the appendix, just like we said, and we recognize the words right here, appendix. So when I'm reading this and I see inflammation twice and I see appendix, I know it's going to have to do something with appendicitis because it's talking about the inflammation and the appendix in one thing. And then it's explaining that it can be chronic or just like recurrent inflammation. We're going to skip back down to the athletic heart syndrome. Off the bat, when I read athletic, I'm going to think of an athlete, so somebody who is actively working. Then we go to the next word and we think of heart. So it's going to have something to do probably with the heart or the chest or, and then we're going to have syndrome right here. So then we continue along to reading the definition and it's going to say structural and functional changes that occur in the hearts of individuals. Off the bat, we have heart. So we're matching this already. If I were to see this on a test and I saw heart off the bat, I'm going to think, okay, let me cancel out all the other words I have and focus on the word heart. And I'm going to recognize that athletic heart syndrome has the word heart in it. I'm going to keep reading and it's going to say of individuals who train greater than an hour. Off the bat, when you think of individuals who train greater than an hour, most likely they're going to be athletes. You're never going to see any other people that... You're never going to see, regular people who aren't athletes or have been ex-athletes who are able to train for greater than an hour. So that's already giving me a little pointer that the individual who's going to train greater than an hour is an athlete. And in the beginning, we have athletic right here. So we're going to finish it. It's going to say on most days and includes an increase in the mass of left ventricle. So then it's just going to say what it's going to do and everything. Or where it will affect. But off the bat, I already see heart and I already see individuals who train greater than an hour. I'm going to think athletic heart syndrome off the bat. Those are my mnemonics. That's what I use and how I remember certain definitions and how I would see something on test. I'm going to drop back down right here to common cordis. Off the bat, I'm going to recognize the word common. So you're going to think of something that's reoccurring or that is within many individuals. So I'm going to start reading it and it's going to say cardiac arrest that occurs due to blunt impact to the chest. This one was a little hard for me to break down with common cordis. It was kind of really one I had to start remembering. I didn't really use a mnemonic or annotate it really in that one. I just remembered cord right here off the bat. I think of Grey's Anatomy once again for some reason. I try to fit mnemonics and everything so I'm able to recognize. This one was a little harder. When I think of cord, for some reason I think of card. off the bat, and to me it's going to be cardiac. So just like with the pre equals pro or the other ones I was doing, for this one I do cord and then card. Common cord equals card. So cardiac arrest that occurs due to blunt impact to the chest that occurs. So it's going to be common. In my opinion, this is where I'm going to tie it to. It's going to be common to blunt impact to the chest. Those are the two mnemonics I try to fit in, I try to use. Otherwise, this is really one that I just remember. I can't really, fit too many things into it. So common cordis, I think of cord equals card. Automatically, I read card right here, cardiac arrest, and then occurs due to blunt impact to the chest. So it's gonna commonly happen, when there's blunt impact to the chest, and that's how I see it and I remember it. This one, I always have trouble reading this word right here, but it's going to say costochondral separation and dislocation. So before anything, I'm going to read the full definition. It's going to say occurs from a direct blow to the anterolateral aspect of the thorax, or indirectly from a twist or fall on some object that causes disassociation between the rib cage and rib. So off the bat, I'm thinking of this word right here, disassociation and dislocation. For some reason, those are going to be my two mnemonics. So if I'm ever reading the definition and I see disassociation, I'm going to also look for my mnemonic dislocation right here. I don't know really how my brain is able to link these two together. But usually during tests, I usually try to look for keywords that are like, always going to be in the definition, even if it's worded differently in a different test. I look for dislocation and disassociation. Let's go over this one more time. It's going to say occurs from a direct blow to the anterolateral aspect of the thorax, or indirectly from a twist or fall on some object that causes disassociation between the cartilage and rib. Again, this is another one that I really just had to remember and constantly go over repetition, because I couldn't really associate any mnemonics besides dislocation and disassociation. That was just one of those I had to also remember as well. But if I were going to do a type of mnemonic, it'd be the dislocation and disassociation. So then we're gonna move down here to hemorrhoids. Right here, I use another thing, just like I use cord equals quad and pre equals pro. With this one, I use piles equals plexus. The reason for this is because hemorrhoids, also known as piles, I tie in this word right here. And then once you read the definition, it's going to say varicose ties of the hemorrhoidal venous plexus of the anus. So off the bat, I'm going to have these keywords, hemorrhoids right here in this one. So if I'm reading a definition and I see this definition on a test, I'm going to think, oh, look at the two hemorrhoids together. They're already giving it away. Another thing, if another definition has hemorrhoids in it and I can't do the certain distinction, I'm always going to think of piles. And if the remaining part of the definition has venous plexus of it, I'm going to equal the piles equals plexus, just so I could really specifically narrow down on what's it exactly going to be. I'm going to come down here to hemothorax right here. It's going to be presence of blood within the pleural cavity. So whenever I think of hemo, I'm always going to think of blood. That's just me. And then when I think of thorax, I always think of a cavity, like that's why I think of a cavity. It's like a certain part, like it's a certain section. So I always break it down to hemo and blood, and then thorax equals cavity. So if I'm reading the definition and I see that, hemo, blood already off the bat, and then I see thorax and I'm like, it has cavity too. And then you just have to remember the rest of it. So if I have blood and cavity off the bat, I'm going to see presence of blood within the pleural cavity, so that, it already is self-explanatory, but those are the mnemonics I use with it if I were to see it on a test. We're going to jump back down here, and the definition of this one is going to have to say, most often due to a fall or direct blow to the left upper quadrant of the abdomen when an existing medical condition has caused splenomegaly. I always have trouble pronouncing this. Splenomegaly usually is mononucleosis. So off the bat, when I think of injury, I'm going to think of something that's hurt. You know, and then the spleen, with me and this one, I always think of where the spleen is located. So just like the heart or the appendix or anything else, I'm always going to try to go back to my anatomy and think of, okay, like maybe in the definition, it will have, you know, a certain location so that I can narrow down, you know, maybe the spleen is in that location and maybe the definition will match up to the word right here. So as I'm reading, most often due to a fall or direct blow. With a direct blow, no matter what, in any type of sport, if somebody takes a direct blow, most likely, most of the time, they're going to have an injury. So off the bat, I just think that they disguise this as injury. It's already telling you that there's an injury. Up to the left upper quadrant of the abdomen. So like I told you before, this is when you're going to have to go back to your anatomy and think what is going to be in that left upper quadrant of the abdomen. You're going to think back, you're going to look at all your words, and you're going to be like, is any of these in the left upper quadrant of the abdomen? Then you're going to narrow it down right here, but they already give you the word injury. So I'm going to tie this to spleen. This is how my brain works, because the spleen is located in the left upper quadrant of the abdomen. That's how I'm going to remember that. And then it's just going to, as the other definitions are doing, it's just going to explain existing medical condition that is caused. It's going to say what's caused after it or anything. That's how I remember the injury of the spleen. I always look to injury, and then I look to the location, and then I narrow it down.